Hey everybody, welcome back. Jim and Trent here again with MidwestHockey.info. We're going through these team by team look back on the 15-16 season. We're now going to try to take a quick look at the Minnesota Wild. Trent, an interesting team there in the Wild. A lot of veteran players on that team, and they just I don't know that I think maybe if they're in another division, they might be more successful. But it's just been too tough for them to come out of that Central Division. It seems like.
Yeah, definitely. Keep they're keep right there on the borderline of being a playoff team, not being a playoff team, getting into the playoffs, not making it far.
Yeah.
And I think this is a team that's really gonna want to rally behind Miku Koivu, who's been there for many years. But they're also a team. They got a lot of veterans, but as we'll look at it, they also got a lot of youth. And I think I speak not out of turn here when I say it looks like the future could be right in Minnesota.
Yeah, they certainly do have another generation of players coming up. There is some good young talent. They draft pretty well, I think. Yeah. And they're definitely knocking on the door. But a lot of these players, I think that were good young players. I think once you hit that 30 mark, your career's not done, but you're definitely sort of in the twilight years. I think you're not going to get any better. And I don't know. It's hard to say. There's so many veterans there, and the thing they've done in the offseason now is bring in Bruce Boudreau. That's their first real move of the offseason. And it'll be interesting to see what he can do. He's a coach that's also found it difficult to win in the postseason, but I don't know. Well, it'll be an interesting year again, I think.
Yeah, and I think he brings a lot of veteran. I think a lot of experience that they haven't had quite behind the bench. Not to knock any of the other coaches that have been there, but he has a lot more experience than the coaches that have been there.
That's a good point.
And when you look at Boudreau, really could have picked his coaching job, and he picked the Wild, and I think that was for a reason.
Yeah, you're right. In the offseason, he was pretty much in demand by all the teams that were looking for coaches, and he did pick the Wild because he thought they had the best chance. So he will hold the players accountable. Maybe that'll be something that will help you down the stretch. I'm just not sure if the chemistry's always been 100% there, but we'll find out. A lot of talent there. Most of the guys, I think, are on their way back. I don't think this team is going to make a huge statement in the offseason. I think they're more or less looking to tweak a little bit. At center, you mentioned Koivu. The team is pretty stacked at center. Granlund had 44 points this year. Koivu did lead the way with 56. Granlund with 44. Charlie Coyle with 42. Eric Holla with 34. Not all these guys probably played center, but that's a position that they're listed at. Definitely some depth there, and some young talent too.
Yeah, I mean, you look at Mikko Koivu, who's 33, been with the Wild. I almost want to say he's drafted there, but I don't know well enough to say that for sure.
He's been there a long time.
He's been there for a very long time. And this is a guy, to me, that I really think deserves a Stanley Cup. You never hear about him in the news in a negative with off-the-ice issues. So he's always a good, positive guy. And I would like to see him rally around him and get him a cup. But, you're bringing up guys like Granlund, Holla, Charlie Coyle, 24, 25 years old. I mean, these guys are going to be coming into their prime here, starting in, I would say your prime is probably right around 28. It's really when you're starting to kick it into gear, be really, really impactful. And so they're right there on the verge, and they definitely are stacked there.
That is the one position where they are somewhat youthful. Like you mentioned, Granlund, Coyle, Holla, still basically in their younger years, in their early to mid-20s. Jared Stoll played 80 games there last year, only picked up 9 points. You're going to go through their free agent list and
Mm-hmm.
contract situations. I'm not sure what Stoles is. Don't think that was an experiment that they're going to call a success right now. And then you got Schroeder and Dalpe, who I think sort of split their time between Minnesota and Iowa. Good young players, although they are a little bit older for players just coming up. They're being eased out of the lineup, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And you see that it's not a very uncommon thing.
Yeah.
I think players can come out of the AHL 25, 26 years old and still make an impact in the NHL. So it's definitely, their best years are ahead of them, and they can still have a good shot at making an NHL roster.
Right. On the right side, I am kind of a fan of Nino Niederreiter. He is their leading scorer among right wingers. He only had 43 points. He did have a 20-goal season. I believe he can put up some better numbers. I was surprised to see that he's actually only 23 years old. He started playing at a young age with the Islanders, and he's definitely a veteran now at the age of 23, which is kind of cool. And then you have Jason Pominville, David Jones, Justin Fontaine. Fontaine is 28. The other two are into their 30s now. Fairly low numbers for the right side there. Pominville, 36 points. They might, if they were looking to plug somebody in that could add some offense, maybe that's where they would be looking to do it.
Yeah, and I think they might be looking for someone to help round out their top six.
Yeah.
But we'll take a little bit of a look at that later.
Sure.
But I do got a question for you, Jim. Is the reason you're a fan of Nino Niederreiter, is that because his name's just so fun to say?
Yeah.
Nino Niederreiter.
I remember when he got drafted, and it is a pretty cool name, and it's difficult to spell. So I'm proud of myself for being able to spell it. But I do think that he, I found out from sort of paying more attention to the Wild that he brings a little bit. He definitely has that net presence. He can shoot, but he's kind of a physical player. He's fairly big, and I think he's just a really good all-around player.
Yeah, and I think is at 23 another guy that you can really look to pad your top six going forward.
Right, absolutely. On the left side, this is where the team definitely relies on the veterans. Zach Parise, of course, he's been in Minnesota now for 3 or 4 years, I believe. He's a 31. He's not old by any means, but like I said, once you get across that 30 barrier, you start to see maybe the tunnel getting a little bit smaller. Not a bad season, 53 points. He played 70 games. Thomas Vanek, a disappointing season for him, I think. He did not get 20 goals this season. 18 goals, 23 assists, 41 points in 74 games. I've heard his name in possible buyout rumors, trade rumors. So it will be interesting to see what happens there. Jason Zucker is an up-and-coming left winger. He's 24. He did play 71 games this year and got 23 points. And I think, they have some good veteran talent on that left side, but it'll be interesting to see what moves they make there in the offseason.
Yeah. Like you said, you got Zach Parise, 31 now. But I really feel like you still got good years ahead of you.
Oh, yeah.
But, you are starting to, I think when you start to get to be about 33, and it's not an exact science.
No.
But 33, 34 is when you're really going to start to see that taper.
Yeah.
And then you have a guy like Yager who just blows all that out of the water.
Right.
But, I think he still has, 2 really good productive seasons ahead of him where he can be a star on a team and be super effective. And so I think he's a guy you build around for the next couple of years anyhow.
Put the New Jersey team on his back a couple seasons ago on a nice playoff run. He's definitely a guy that can play with a lot of emotional in the postseason. I'm sure he would like to make it happen. And, the years are starting to pile up a bit now. There's definitely some pressure to make things happen fairly quick there.
Mm-hmm.
But they're not the only team in that division that's feeling that pressure. So it's a tough job there
Yeah,
in
that is a
Central
tough
division. We've
division.
gone through that many times.
Yeah, definitely the best division in the NHL by
I
far right
believe
now.
so too. Yeah. So on defense, there may not be anybody better, at least as far as minutes go, than Ryan Suter. He's traditionally a leader in minutes played.
Mm-hmm.
He has crossed the 30 barrier as well. He's 31, same as Parise, but no let up on his ability to log the minutes. He played all 82 games this year, which is great. When you figure how much he does play, he would be really lost without him, I think.
Yeah.
51 points, 8 goals, 43 points. And Matt Dumba right there with 81 games played and 26 points. A little bit less than Suter on the points, but nice to see a couple defensemen there that you can count on game in and game out.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Dumba's he's such a good skater.
Yeah.
And it's kind of surreal watching him skate with the puck because he's just such a smooth skater. It's very impressive. And then you got a guy like Suter that just, can carry a team on his back on the defensive end and
Absolutely.
does it all. You can put him out on the power play, out on the penalty kill. He's going to be your best defenseman in every situation. So it's a good to have leadership like that on your team.
We talked a lot about the defense in St. Louis. We talked about the defense in Chicago, how great their core defensive unit is. Maybe this team gets overshadowed a little bit, but you got Suter and Dumba. We've already talked about Marco Scandella, Jared Spurgeon. To me, that's a pretty awesome front four.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned earlier, there is some really good young defense. That's where this team, I think, really is really solid at the right at the grassroots level, all the way down.
Mm-hmm.
Iowa has had some troubles, but they do have some really good defensemen, and this team is solid on the blue line.
Yeah, and then you look at their fifth guy, Jonas Brodin, who I think is going to be a good up and coming defenseman.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're looking at the ages here: Dumba 21, Scandella 26, Spurgeon 26,
Yeah.
Brodin 22. I mean, these are guys that, all of them, I would say, are going to be top 4 defensemen in their career. And when you have that good young core of top 4 defensemen, that's something you definitely grinning looking forward.
Yeah. And then a case of the rich getting richer, I suppose. Mike Riley comes available halfway through the season, and when a guy like that can go wherever he wants, they have that same advantage that a lot of them teams like Detroit gets all the Michigan guys. Ontario guys want to play in Toronto. And Quebec players always want to play in Montreal. Minnesota guys want to play for the Wild, and another great addition there. And like we said, it's just a case of the defense getting better and better.
Yeah. And then we look at goalies.
Yeah, Devin Dubnyk, there was some people thought, after that great season he had previous, a lot of people wondered if he could answer the bell again. He definitely carried a heavy load. He played 67 games this year. And I think for the most part, he really did put up some impressive numbers. He had 5 shutouts on the year, goals against .233 and a save percentage of .918. But 67 games played, that is a lot for an NHL goaltender.
That is a lot. And it's a little different when you look at goalies. You hear a goalie who's 30 and you're like, wow, he has plenty of years ahead of him.
Yeah.
And Dubnyk, 30 now, he's just a workhorse for that team.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's definitely something where the success. He's proven himself. Now he got the big contract, I think, after the previous year, and he's shown him that it was money well spent, if you ask me.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Darcy Kemper at 26, maybe not. He maybe doesn't see himself as a backup, but he sure fits in well on this team.
Yeah.
He played 21 games last year. 243 goals against average, 915 save percentage. Unfortunately, he had a losing record, but those numbers indicate that it probably wasn't his fault.
Yeah, that was, you look at support when you get on from the offense. But, yeah, he definitely good numbers. Good young goalie. I'm sure he sees himself as a starter going forward at some point, and maybe it's with the Wild, maybe it's with another team, but good backup for right now, anyways.
Well, I think this team might feed off the success that St. Louis had. They're kind of in a similar position where they've just, they've had some decent regular seasons, maybe not at the level of St. Louis. They just haven't been able to convert it into playoff success, really. They've run into, obviously in that division, you're going to run into some really good teams. They're looking for a way to find some playoff success.
Mm-hmm.
I think Boudreaux is maybe going to have them more prepared to go into the postseason. Time will tell on that, but take a look at the free agent numbers and things like that, Trent, and tell me what do you think this team could do in the offseason?
So you look at unrestricted free agents at the forward positions. You got David Jones, Justin Fontaine, Jarrett Stoll, Ryan Carter, and Chris Porter, with one restricted free agent, Jason Zucker. They're definitely going to want to get him tied down. He's the guy that they're going to want going forward.
Yeah.
And they're going to have decisions on the rest. Some of those guys, they're going to have to weigh who do they want to bring back, what price can they bring them back for. So they definitely have to look at what they want to do there and where they see these players filling in, because there's a decent amount of young guys whose roles are going to be expanding going forward.
Yeah.
So some of these guys that might have been playing top 6, top 9 might be looking at the third line, or the fourth line. So maybe you let them walk because they want more money, more term.
Yeah, I absolutely agree that I think out of that list that you gave, a lot of them guys have potential, but Zucker to me is the key guy that they want to make sure they get back in the lineup. Yeah.
Then on defense, we got one restricted free agent, no unrestricted. That being Matthew Dumba. So he made $894,000 last year.
For a raise.
He's definitely due for a raise.
Yeah.
So I think they're gonna look at contracts like Sami Vatanen from the Ducks. He got I believe 5. So that, in my opinion, Dumba's definitely the better defenseman. So that would be a comparable, though. Being a young, I believe Sammy's 22 now.
Well, they haven't announced a cap, but do they look like they have room?
Yeah, they're definitely going to have room,
okay.
Especially with, David Jones last year. If they decide not to re-sign him, I don't know what he would be looking for. He was $4 million last year. I would suspect he's definitely looking at a pay cut. Then you got Jarrett Stoll. He was only making $800. Otherwise, no one else was making a lot of money in that group. But they might. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a little tight for them going forward.
So they're right. They were right at the cap.
Yeah, they were right at the cap at the end of last year. And the one player, David Jones, $4 million. That's the one big one for them. So if they decide not to re-sign him, that's $4 million for this upcoming season.
Makes it difficult, especially with Dumba and Zucker both probably looking at a bit of a raise.
Yeah, definitely both looking at raise, and maybe they get a bridge deal. Maybe the Wild are able to negotiate that with them, and hey, instead of signing a 8-year deal, why don't we sign another 2-year deal, and then we'll go go from here. You're 21, you're 24. Let's get over this little 25 mark, this 23 mark, and see where your future is.
Yeah, so definitely some interesting decisions to be made by the Wild. Like I said, I don't predict anything earth-shattering from them in the offseason, but
I have heard their name a little bit in the trade rumors, mostly Brodin and Dumba. Just because they have so much talent there,
solid on TV.
And if they're afraid that they're not going to be able to afford Dumba, I think that would be the only reason to move him, along with bringing in a forward.
So the return would be a top 6 forward.
Top 6 forward, or maybe they're looking at building in the draft.
Oh, okay.
But he would demand some pretty hefty picks. So, and like I said, the only reason you're probably not going to sign him is because you're afraid, or the only reason you trade him is because you're afraid you can't afford to sign him. And when you look at goalies, Kemper is a restricted free agent, but I think Dubnyk, he has probably the best value contract in the NHL. He's signed through 2021-22 season
Really?
at $4.3 million a year. And when you're looking at
If he keeps
goalies,
playing the way he is, yeah.
if he keeps playing the way he is, that's a good deal for them.
Yeah, it definitely looks good right now.
Yeah.
Kemper, you said he is due
For
this
restricted.
summer, and he's not in a great bargaining position just because he definitely was a backup on this team.
Oh yeah.
But well, it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, so that's our look at the Minnesota Wild. We'll keep you posted on anything that comes up over the course of summer, and we'll get back to you.
Stay classy, Midwest.